Hello, hello. I am now over here. I guess an alternate thing I could do is work on some stream assets, but nah. Let's do today's daily challenge. Because I have... Hmm. Let's go with Vagar? Yay! I got that right. Shaggy probably has more stuff as a legacy character. Anna 100% has way more art than a reptile. Zhao probably has more art than Raihan. Big Boss has... Nope. Okay. Pit wins there. I'm gonna go with Aether over Yuyuko Sagyoji. Glamark Chica over Sidon. Houndoom over Human Torch. Scout over Drift. Makoto over Otsuki Kaguya. Hey! I did way better this time. Yep, still got my best streak. Let's say remove AI results. I guess I'll include franchises this time. Sarabella's gonna have more art than Lisa. Kirlia's gonna have more art than Sarabella. I should probably turn on some music. There we go. And also, let's see, playing. Let's see if that pops up. Let's see, Rosalina. Probably has more than Kirlia. Yeah. Definitely has more than Candace. King of Fighters definitely has more. I'm gonna guess that King of Fighters has more than Johnny Bravo. Who loses to Mr. Boruto? Who wins out over Samurai Jack, the franchise? Who loses to Lusamine? Who wins out over Claude von Ragen? Who loses to Gargora? Who I think wins out over Zeri of League of Legends? Who wins... No, these two are going to be pretty close, I think. I'm going to go with Zeri over Venture Brothers in total, and lose. I told you they were going to be close. Tepig over Yasuo. Random Pokemon or Toho? Toho wins. Toho probably wins against Super Smash Brothers. Yeah. Wins against Max of Brawl Stars. Loses to Majin Buu. Barely. Who wins that against My Life as a Teenage Robot? No! Misjudged that hard. God damn. Invincible has more than Captain Marvel. Ranma Saotome loses against Invincible, the franchise. Okay. Gee, I think Okita Soji is win out barely against some random character from She-Ra. Kaguya Horai-san wins against Okita Soji of Fate. Animal Crossing, as a franchise, wins out against Kaguya handily. And Scout of Team Fortress 2. I'm gonna go for Fujisaki Chihiro over the Scout and lose. Anastasia of... Nope. Okay. Never mind. I want Minato to have more than this random VTuber. And I am right. Yay. Farah obviously wins out here. Zone 0 as a whole definitely wins out against Farah. Speaking of which, is that out yet? Where are you? Should probably actually add that to my wish list.
A disaster that devours the world.
Nope. And I am not playing that with the English dub, because I can already tell it's going to be shit. I mean, I could go for the advanced testing thingamajig. But no. Zella Zone 0 as a franchise wins out against Impa. I'm gonna guess that Shinhei wins out over Impa. Yep. But like 10 times. Shinhei comes out over Jiraiya. Who wins out over Firefly of Honkai Star Rail? Nope! Absolutely wrong. The Joker wins it. Okay. I'm gonna go with Machoke over Ms. Negi. Well, fuck you. Chebashiratenko wins out. Okay. Bell of Zone 0 loses to Sakura Kasagano. Wins out over Miss Brit? Yes. Loses to Commander Nikkei. Loses to Mimikyu. Nope. Damn, the commander shows up a lot, I guess. Makoto definitely... No! What? I have not seen that much Asuna art. Huh. We Bear Bears as a franchise wins out over... Barefoot Overwatch Weirdo. Wins out against Maractus? Barely. Loses to Rurouni Kenshin as a... Nope. What? Marginally surprised, but... I'm gonna go with Bianca Whittaker winning out over Yu Yu Hakusho and Vi. No. Why did I remember Vi having way fewer than that? Foxy definitely wins against Nitocrease. Bakemonogatari. No. What? I underestimate the power of NAF fandom, I guess. This random Genshin Impact guy is definitely going to have more arts than that thing. Sniper wins out? Yes, barely. Dr. Stone as a franchise loses to the TF2 Sniper. Marionette against Dr. Ratio. Shikamaru definitely has more art than Dr. Ratio. BlazBlue definitely has more art than Shikamaru. This is a difficult one, but I'm gonna go with BlazBlue over Gene Alter. Let's go with Gene Alter over Justice of Helltaker. Stardew Valley over Justice? Hey! A dead VTuber agency over Stardew Valley. I'm gonna go with Stardew Valley? No? Okay. I guess not. Roxy Prep. No. Honkai Star Rail definitely has more art than Amy Wong. I hope Nichijou has more art than Amy Wong. Fuck me. Charizard has more art than Power. Power has more art than Rex, I think. Yep. I think Haikyuu as a franchise probably has about as much art as Rex, if I were to guess, based on all the characters I've seen show up. But just a little more. It definitely has more art than random League of Legends character. Sonya wins out over random League of Legends character. I'm gonna go with Tosaka Rin over Sonya and lose. Giovanna. I haven't seen that much art of her. And she just barely wins out over Jonathan Joestar. Probably has Giovanna versus Vayne. I'm gonna go with Giovanna. Because she just has a more appealing design. Vayne probably has more posts than a Cookie. Sonya wins out against Cookie handily. Rosa wins out against Sonya handily. I really fucking hope that Rosa has more art than Diddy Kong. Random Toho character probably has more art than Diddy, just barely. Echo probably has more art. No! Well, that's good. I'm gonna guess that this random Attack on Titan character has more than Spike. And I'm correct. Cottontail VA probably has more art than random Brawl Stars character and random League of Legends character. The Amazing Digital Circus 100% has way more art than random League of Legends character. I don't know why, but people are weird. Serena probably has less art than Amazing Digital Circus. Vinsmoke Reiju doesn't have that much. Yeah. Like, she's goddamn hot, but... Cho has more art. Cammy definitely wins out over the Chow from Sonic. And Kokomi from Genshin Impact. And Kokomi wins out over random League of Legends character. Typhlosion wins out against random League of Legends character. I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've seen this Toho, so I'm gonna guess Typhlosion. I thought it was a VTuber. League of Legends, as a franchise, easily wins out here. And over Kale of Dragon Ball. Inkling Boy, I think, will win out over, yes, Dragon Ball character and Pumpkin Pie Cookie. Gareth of Fate. I'm gonna guess she has more art. Just barely, goddamn. I'm gonna guess that the League of Legends character wins out here. Yes. Ellie 100% has more art than a random League of Legends character. And probably Leonardo da Vinci. Street Fighter easily wins out over Leonardo da Vinci. Shouldn't be Leonardo da Vinci, but that's fate. Doesn't have to make sense. Street Fighter over Miku? Yes. But Miku has a lot of art. Easily more than Sabrina. Punch Out? I'm gonna go with Sabrina here. And Double 100% has 11 less posts than Punch Out. I was expecting more! But hey, new streak, 24! Yeah! Okay. Let's go with Dead or Alive character over Fire Emblem character. Freedom Planet probably has more? Yeah, okay. Powerpuff Girls barely has more. Probably has more than Ms. Lampard. Loses out to the Vocaloid. Ooh, probably has less art than Skathic. Who probably has more art than random League of Legends character. Who loses out to the Teenage Robot. As a franchise, who wins out over the Scout. Who probably wins out over Baymax, because yes, Big Hero 6 is relatively popular, but it doesn't have that much art. Princess Bubblegum easily wins out over Baymax. Easily wins out over Hatterene. Easily wins out over Emolga. Just barely, though. Only 200 posts. Susie wins out easily over Emolga. Susie, unfortunately, wins out over Barghest. To Lavru probably wins out over Barghest. Probably wins out over Gwen of League of Legends. Undertale easily beats out Gwen of League of Legends. And, unfortunately, Spice and Wolf. Which I'm pretty sure loses against Ace Attorney. Which is probably about on the same level as Rebecca Chambers. I'm going to guess that Rebecca Chambers has more art. And... hey! I got up to 20 again. That was nice. Oh, now this one is genuinely difficult. Relatively popular character from a relatively popular game versus the franchise of a relatively popular game that doesn't have a lot of fappable designs. But again, the Fujos and Homos are surprisingly powerful. The Daylight wins out 3 times. God damn. Definitely wins out over Mega Man. Okay. No, it doesn't. Dead by Daylight loses to Mega Man. Pheromones, I think, is stronger than Mystia Lorelei. Weaker than Sephiroth. Stronger than Guido Mista. Barely. Seven Deadly Sins as a franchise is weaker than Guido. Okay. Crash Bandicoot wins out over Yuri on Ice. Iono is definitely stronger than Yuri on Ice. And Sojourn of Overwatch. Solid Snake is definitely stronger than Sojourn of Overwatch. And I'm gonna guess Ghost from Modern Warfare? No! Okay. Minchino wins out over Lieutenant Surge. Itsuko Akagi wins out over Michin? Minchino? No. I mean, if we were just going by based on my tastes, yes. Mega Man as a franchise wins out over Helicopteri many times. Hey Arnold is weaker than Mega Man, I'm gonna say. Just because the designs are weird. Salamence wins out over Hey Arnold. No, it does not. I'm gonna go with a Goomba over a VTuber. And lose by 5 posts. Come on, Diablo the franchise has to be stronger than Sableye. Yeah! Nefertari VV definitely has more posts, but not by as much as you would think. Ryu, I'm gonna guess, wins out over Nefertari VV. And Camilla too? No! No. What was I thinking? Okay. Toga or... I'm gonna go with Memoji. And lose. Damn. Ling Xiaoyu? Yes. Wins out over Manuela Casagrande. Dilga loses to Ling Xiaoyu. Okay. Amy Rose 100% has more art than Korra. Probably more than Chun-Li. Yes, but it's close. Chun-Li definitely has more than Thresh. Thresh probably has more than the lovely Labyrinth of Silver. Nope. Okay. Camilla has more art than Miles Morales. Who handily loses to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Who wins against Random Genshin Impact. Who loses against Ms. Mahabala. Who loses to Superior. Who loses to Luna. Hard. I'm gonna guess Final Fantasy as a whole wins out against Luna. And wins against Xenoblade as well. Loses to Leon's can't. No. I'm gonna guess that the Coffin of Andy and Lele has more. It, as a whole, has more art than some random Fire Emblem. Probably Tharja too? No. Okay. Kali wins out against random Haikyuu. Oh, I'm gonna guess loses against Evatel. Yes. Who wins out over some Wuthering Waves character. Who loses to Diablo as a franchise. Who loses to Yorha to B. Who wins against Celestia Ludenberg. Who wins against Pumpkin Pie Cookie. Who loses to Pikachu Libre. Who loses to Eren Yeager. Who loses to Princess Luna. Who, I'm gonna guess, wins against Machamp. Who wins against Chloe Price? No. Chloe is stronger than Machamp. Lugia wins against Miss Magius. Ooh, I'm gonna guess wins out over Eliza of Tekken. Who wins out over Dr. Ratio. No, who loses by 123 over Dr. Ratio. Okay. Tomb Raider as a franchise wins handily over Big Man of Splatoon and Reptile of Mortal Kombat. Who loses handily to the Inkling Boy. Who also wins out over Morgana of League of Legends. Who unfortunately wins out over Barghest of Fate. who handily loses to Angel Woman of Digimon. Who I want to say wins out against Crash Bandicoot. Nope. Okay. Ms. Finger of Attack on Titan wins against Cantarella of Wuthering Waves. Ms. Finger loses handily against Bleach as a franchise. I'm pretty sure it wins out handily against Tyrantrum, who loses handily to Alcina Dimitrescu, who wins handily against Superior, who loses handily against Neon Genesis Evangelion, who wins handily against Mordekaiser. Well, I'm guessing loses to Star Ocean as a franchise, who loses to Emily de Rochefort of Tekken, who wins against Hydreigon, who loses against D. Greyman, the franchise. No! Man. I mean, I know it's not the most popular anime, but goddamn. Anyway, Uto wins out against Cantarella. Loses to Zdrada. It loses to Wendy Okupa. Loses to Arbok? No. Sceptile wins against... No! Akari is stronger than Sceptile! Shantae as a character somehow barely beats out Alcina Dimitrescu. Probably Robert Robertson as well. I'm going to guess loses to Vei. Nope. Come on, Wonder Woman, you gotta be stronger than Beerus. There you go. Talmon loses to Beerus, of course. Alright, Bioshock wins against Tanya, Mortal Kombat, and Iwaizumi Hajime of Haikyuu. Hajime loses to Jason Voorhees easily. Because figure this game is basically a huge comparison between like recognizability and the sexual appeal. For example, in this case, Yoruichi Shihoin wins out over Jason Voorhees easily. And probably Samus... No, Samus wins harder. God damn. Heavy over Bianca. No, that's a loss. Mallow over Julia Chang. Valentine wins out against Julia Chang. Sherry Birkin wins out against Valentine. Nope. Sans wins out against Kogasa Tatara. Kogasa Tatara loses to Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy loses to Cyberpunk as a franchise. Cyberpunk as a franchise wins against Ivy of Fire Emblem, who I think wins against Vincent Valentine of Final Fantasy VII, who loses to Transformers.
R34 quiz time.
Yes. Who loses to Transformers as a franchise, who wins out against Zentreya the VTuber, who I think loses to Patchouli Knowledge of Toho, who loses to Harley Quinn of DC Comics, who wins over Navia of Genshin Impact, who I think wins out over Tokage Setsuna of My Hero Academia, who I think loses to Helltaker, the character, who loses to Korra, Ms. Only Good for Porn, who I think wins out over Sly Cooper as a whole. Barely. Who and Sly Cooper wins out over Amane Kanata, who I think beats out Karlak just barely. Too many people with shit taste. That would be like a punishment game or something for me. Baldur's Gate 3. Let's go with this Fairy Tail character over Infinite from Sonic. Devil May Cry over Infinite from Sonic. Devil May Cry over Jibril from No Game No Life. Who loses out against Diosei of Toho. Who loses to Princess Rosalina of Super Mario. Who wins out over Jean of Bayonetta. Who loses out to Florigato.
Based BG3 hater.
Yeah, I just don't like the game. It's like, on one hand, they take 5e and then make it even more narrow. And then the world, it's just wrong. Hina wins it? No, she doesn't. Cell wins out over Gone. Freaks. Vocaloid wins out over Gone. And Yuka Kazami. Topo Project. Loses to Primo. Yep. All Stars, who loses out to Hypno of Pokemans. I've read more than enough dojins. Fate's Day Night wins out.
The Pathfinder games were better anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna play those on the channel eventually. Fate's Day Night beats out Cyclops of X-Men. It's like right now I'm basically there'll be options for after I get Rogue Trader done, but that's gonna be a long ass time. I'm gonna guess that Grace Howard wins out against Cyclops and be completely wrong. Cool. Sonic, is Sonic powerful enough? Yes, it is. Wendland went out over against some Brawl Stars. Koopa Troopa definitely wins here, but not as much as I would think. Definitely wins out over Mesprit. Levi Ackerman definitely wins out over Mesprit. Truly Knowledge, I'm pretty sure wins out over Levi Ackerman. And the Warden from Minecraft, which loses to Demon Slayer as a franchise. Which loses to Sonic as a franchise. Which wins out over Mewtwo. Which wins out over Utahime of Jujutsu Kaisen. Who I think loses to Tsunomaki Watame, the VTuber? No, but it was damn close. Yoimiya is definitely going to win out over Rillaboom. Who's probably going to win out over Topaz? Yes, but it's very close. Who easily loses to Tatsumaki of One Punch Man. Who probably wins out over William Afton of FNAF. Who I'm gonna guess loses to Yinlin of Wuthering Waves and be completely wrong. But yeah, I gotta say, Rogue Trader is definitely, I think, the best of the CRPGs in that vein that I've played. Eliza of Tekken or Kujo Sara of Genshin Impact. I'm gonna go with Ms. Kujo. And again, over Shez of Fire Emblem. I'm gonna guess that Ritsuko Akagi of Evangelion is more powerful than Shez? No. Wrong. Smurfs over Ms. Katra.
Damn, people loved Tatsunki that much.
I mean, she's hot. Can you blame them? Vegeta over Poplio. Naburo over Poplio and wrong. Okay. Marth over Catalyst? Wrong. Vigor over Thresh, because I remember Thresh having a few hundred. Sobble winning out over Thresh just barely. Villager over Sobble, most definitely. Rurouni Kenshin, no, Villager's going to be more powerful. Valentine wins out over Rurouni Kenshin. Loses to Bunny of FNAF. A lot of people apparently had their sexual awakening while playing FNAF. Wins out over Archie of Pokemon. Who loses to Asuka Langley. Wins out over Black Swan of Honkai Star Rail. Who I think loses to Ethan of Pokemon? Nope. Actually, that is a thing. Not entirely related to stuff just now, but what is it? Time Stranger? Digimon Story Time Stranger. I basically have very little background in Digimon, but I've seen good things about it. So I guess it could be fun for people to backseat me on what the fuck is going on. With Time Stranger. Maybe I should put up a poll for that. Sure. Should I play Digimon Time Stranger? Not like in the immediate sense, but Lilligant, I'm gonna say, wins out over Cerberus and... well, okay. Spy wins out over Tenko. Loses to Ashley. Nope. Right. This doesn't include, like, Marvel Rivals wins out over Khalifa. Which loses to Embor. Loses to Zhongli. Loses to Majin Buu. Wrong. Shadowheart wins out over Kasane Teto, although it's surprisingly close. Teto wins out over Cerberus. Cerberus wins out over Tanya. Loses to Soul Calibur easily. Wins out over Ninjago?
Sure, although I heard that Time Stranger's gameplay can get repetitive.
I mean, whatever happens. Sailor Jupiter wins out over Ninjago. Probably wins out over Shinmai Mountains, no Testament, because I don't see a lot of art of Testament.
Time Stranger is great. There is a major expansion coming out, but it won't be till next year.
Okay, so there's plenty of time to play through the game as it is. I guess I could do that tomorrow. No, I need to find time to make notes for Monster House. Let's see what I'm up to. And that's wrong. Okay. Gojo wins out over Bowser Jr. Giovanna wins out over Bowser Jr. Kaguya-sama, as a franchise, easily wins out over Giovanna. And Vagar of League of Legends.
What's Monster House?
Oh, it's the one movie with the weird mocap that kind of works. How old is the movie anyway? ba. 2006. A 2006 American animated
2006 movie.
supernatural comedy horror film directed by Gil Kenan in his directorial debut. From a screenplay written by Pamela Petler and the writing team of Dan Harmon and Rob Schrab. I don't know Dan Harmon was involved with this. Based on a story written by Harmon and Schrab. The plot revolves around a neighborhood being terrorized by a sentient haunted house during Halloween. The film features the voice talents of Mitchell Musso, Sam Lerner, Spencer Locke, Steve Buscemi, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Kevin James, Nick Cannon, Jason Lee, Fred Willard, John Heder, Catherine O'Hara, and Kathleen Turner. Produced by Relativity Media and executive producers Robert Zemeckis' Image Movers and Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment. The human characters are animated using motion capture animation, which was
that movie. I watched it a lot since it had reruns during October.
Yeah, I think it played a lot on Cartoon Network. Back when people used to actually watch TV. Which was previously utilized in Zemeckis' previous film, The Polar Express. It was also Sony's first computer animated film, produced by Sony Imageworks, and Relativity's first animated film. It was released theatrically by Sony Pictures releasing through its Columbia Pictures label on July 21st, 2006. It received generally positive reviews from critics and grossed $142 million worldwide against a $75 million budget. It received nominations for the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, the Golden Globe Award for Best Animated Feature Film, but lost to Happy Feet and Cars, respectively. Haunter wins out over Vagar just barely. Loses to Kanako Yasaka. No. Ash wins out over Minthara. I'm pretty sure I've had that pair up before. Let's get OBS back up. I'm gonna guess Minthara. No, Zoe wins out over Minthara. Wins out over Asuna Oi, and I'm wrong. Rising of the Shield Hero loses to Shep. Yeah, I guess it would. John Holzer wins out against Celine. Wins out against Junker Queen, just barely. Loses to Marina of Splatoon. Wins out over Castoris of Star Rail. Loses to another, just barely, as a franchise. Who loses to High School of the Dead as a franchise. Yeah, I guess I'll pick up Digimon Time Strangers. So I can do that right now. Back to the store. I guess I'll go for the Ultimate Edition. Because that should give me... No, it uses De Novo, though, but... I guess I'll just have to hope. Yeah, sure. I'll drop the money on it. Oh, and the fun thing is I can just have it installing right now! Because my internet is strong enough to handle multiple things at once. Toy Freddy over High School of the Dead. I'm gonna go with High School of the Dead as a franchise over one of those. Mithra of Xenoblade is stronger than Toy Freddy, just barely, goddamn. And Puchiana, barely. I'm gonna say that Sanai Kochia wins out over Pochiana. And Arbok loses just Morty Smith. Who wins out over Iwazumi Hajime. Who loses to Juvia Luxor. Juvia. Who wins out over Tailspin. No. Okay. Inko 100% wins out over Hercules. And probably Koizumi Mahiro loses to Monica handily of DDLC. Wins out against Swampert. Who loses to Bugs Bunny. Who loses to Hunter x Hunter as a franchise. Who wins out over the Jetsons as a franchise. That wins out over Ichigo of Darling and the Franxx. Who loses to Dialga? No. Who wins against Dialga by 10, and I made a wrong guess. Bobby Playtime over May of Guilty Gear. Loses to Lois Griffin. Because for some people, for some reason, people are able to get off to stuff like The Simpsons and Family Guy. I don't get it personally. Ninjago is a franchise. Loses. Katra of She-Ra wins out against Wriggle Nightbug. Loses against the Pyro from TF2. Loses against wins against Flower the Flower by 2,400 images. Okay. The Medic wins against Zoe. That's wrong. Come on, Joker, you gotta be more powerful than the Chow, and you're not. Come on, Rin, you gotta be stronger than Nidoking. Just barely. Goddamn. Barghest loses to Nidoking, unfortunately. I think because most of her art is on, like, Gelburu, and this is, to my knowledge, just Rule34, I think. I think. Anyway, Manat 100% wins out against Barghest. Who 100% loses to Mario. Who I think loses out to Mass Effect, yeah, as a franchise. Who wins against Serato Uchiha. Who loses, or who wins out against Zadrata of Helltaker. Who loses to Fire Force as a franchise. Who I'm pretty sure loses out to Amphibia as a franchise. Who wins against Trunks and Briefs. Well, I think loses against Brigitte of Overwatch, yep. Who wins against the Rising of the Shield Hero as a franchise. Who definitely loses out against Toothpaste Hair of Fire Emblem. I'm pretty sure that's one of the protagonists. Who wins out against Nami of League of Legends. Who I really want to say loses to Winry Rockbell. Just barely. God damn. Holy shit. Who loses to Nidoking. Loses to... Huh? Undertale lost against Pokemons? What is this? Let's see. Wow, I have dropped 0 frames today. That's good. Or no, I have not dropped 0 frames in the stream. stream. I also don't think I lost any last stream, but whatever. Uncharted wins against no. Okay. I'm gonna say Poppy of League of Legends, but no. Oh no, I was right! Just barely! Goddamn. Chica wins out against... Nope. Okay. I think Ayane wins out against Fukua. Loses to Elizabeth. No. Okay. Come on, Mega Man franchise, beat out this random League of Legends character. It loses to Jigglypuff. I think loses against Cuddle Team Leader? Yes. Who loses to Twintail? No. Of course not. Transformers wins out against Nicoletta Goldstein. It loses to Marisa versus... No? Okay. This guy has a franchise, wins out against Roll. Wins against M. Bison of Street Fighter. Loses against Kate... No. M. Bison currently has 666 posts on Rule34. If I recall correctly, he's supposed to be a devil kind of role. Kind of. Valorant is a video game. Loses against Cynthia. I guess I really should have. Nero Claudius wins out against Mondo Owada of Danganronpa. And Castoris of Honkai Star Rail. Castoris, I want to say, wins out against Nita of Brawl Stars. No! Frost beat... No. Yeah. Sanji wins out against Mume, the VTuber. Loses against Yoimiya? No. Less... That's 49. The Thing loses against Kagamine Rin of Vocaloid, who wins against Dark Choco Cookie of Cookie Run Kingdom, who loses against Seth Lowell of Zenless Zone Zero, who loses to Grimjow Jigger... No, who wins against Grimjow Jaeger... Jaeger Vengeance. Come on. Okay. Chlorine wins against Goombella. Loses against... No. Okay. Kaya of Genshin Impact against Ash of League of Legends. Barely wins. Winnie the Pooh as a franchise... I know the internet. It wins against Ash of League of Legends by 200 posts, which loses against Call of Duty. Call of Duty wins against Seal of Honkai Star Rail. I think loses against Owari Akane of Danganronpa, who loses to Gyojo as a franchise. No, she wins by 104. Makan Key over this random... No! Of course. Of course, the... never underestimate the power of FNAF. Anyway, gonna say her to... Yeah. Come on, Vivi, you gotta be stronger than Rena Mishima of Tekken 8, and you are. Tailspin is stronger than Mishima. And Pucciana... Stronger than Darius of League of Legends. who is weaker than Wendy Marvell of Fairy Tail, who I think loses... No, she wins against Kyrie of Kingdom Hearts. Nope, loses by 103. Charmander is stronger than Fry of Splatoon. No, I am very wrong there. Come on, Yaemiko has to win out against Yamato of Naruto. Yamato loses against Toho as a franchise, obviously. Mia Frey of Ace Attorney loses to Toho as a franchise. Mary Jane Strauss of Fairy Tail wins against Mia Frey of Ace Attorney. I'm gonna guess, and I'm correct. I'm gonna guess that Mary Jane Strauss of Fairy Tail wins against Rosie of Animal Crossing. Yes. Rosie of Animal Crossing loses against Ada Wong of Resident Evil, who loses against Toho as a franchise because that's come up again. Who wins out against Uchiha Itachi of Naruto, who I think beats out Haxorus of Pokemans. Yep. Who loses to Parasol of Skullgirls. Yes. Who I think wins out against Horizon Zero Dawn, the franchise. And I'm incorrect by like 900. I'm gonna go with the Brawl Stars character over the Haikyuu character, who loses to Scathach of Fate, who wins against Fukua of Skullgirls, who loses to Scheherazade of Fate. Good. Who loses to Ace Attorney as a franchise, which wins against Monokuma of Danganronpa, who loses to Launch of Dragon Ball, just barely, who loses to Mass Effect as a franchise, which wins against Orisa of Overwatch, who loses against Link? No, Jinx of League of Legends, goddamn. Who wins against Bull of Brawl Stars, who loses against Smash Brothers as a franchise, which wins against Barrett Wallace of Final Fantasy VII, who loses to Metal Gear Solid as a franchise, which wins against Mew, who wins against Freedom Planet, the franchise, by like 220. Who wins against Riolu? No! Misjudged that. Freedom Planet as a franchise loses to Riolu, the Pokemon, by 37. Joker of Persona loses to Starfax, the franchise. Starfax. Starfox franchise wins against Josuke Higashikata of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Josuke, I'm gonna say, wins out against Mila Bassett of Freedom Planet. Mila? Winston wins of Overwatch, wins out against Mila Bassett. No, loses to Mila Bassett. Okay. Chainsaw Man, as a franchise, is going to win out over Shirakami Fubuki, the VTuber. Ooh, I'm gonna guess is gonna lose to Larcey Fire Emblem. Nope. In fact, Fubuki wins against Larcey by about 1200. Goro versus Esdeath. Esdeath wins out easily. Chris wins out easily over Esdeath. That's Chris of Deltarune, who wins out over the girlfriend of Friday Night Funkin', and I am funkin' wrong on that. by about 900. Okay, Rei Todoroki of My Hero Academia. I'm gonna guess loses against Madeline Cookie of Cookie Run Kingdom. Max of Brostar. I'm gonna go for Ozora Subaru, the VTuber, over Max Brawl Stars, and win. Ozora Subaru, the VTuber, loses against Sylveon, the Pokemon. Sylveon also wins out over Machoke, who wins out over Fujisaki Chihiro of Danganronpa, who loses against Tristana of League of Legends, yes. Who wins out over Levi Ackerman of Attack on Titan, who loses against Saria of Legend of Zelda. Except I'm wrong and he wins by 1300. Come on, Ryu, you gotta beat out Weavile. No, you don't. I was wrong by 210. Robert Robertson is beaten by Mithra of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, who wins out against Akari of Pokemon, who I want to say wins out against Husk of Hazbin Hotel, yep, by 1600, which loses to Magi, the Labyrinth of Magic as a franchise, and I am incorrect by 211. Minutes on Time Stranger. Sims 4 over Frisk of Undertale. I'm gonna go with Frisk and lose by 4,712. Jujutsu Kaisen over Valorant is a yes. Valorant over Raven Team Leader is a yes. Raven Team Leader over Asahina Aoi of Danganronpa. I'm gonna guess that Azucena Milagros Ortiz Castillo of Tekken 8 wins out over Ms. Asahina of Danganronpa. And I am wrong by about 1100. Mudsdale over Mordekaiser of Leagues of Legend. Loses out to Fatal Fury, the franchise, who beats out Miss Pauling by a lot, who loses to Lanolin the Sheep by about 500, who loses to Himiko Toga by like 6,000, who wins out against Nakiri Arena by about 6,000, who easily wins out over this weird fucking Twitch streamer who I think has like one post. Who the fuck is that guy? Anyway, Amy Wong obviously wins out. Why does he show up so much? Amy Wong over Komachi Onzuka, and I lose by 119. Gothitelle wins out over Ndidi. Roll Casket wins out over Ndidi. Roll Casket wins out over... loses to Meowstick. And I lose by about 800. I'm gonna guess Silver the Hedgehog wins out over Blade of Honkai Star Rail. I'm correct. And Gardenia of Pokemons. That is correct. Kocho Shinobu easily wins out over Gardenia of Pokemons. Kocho Shinobu of Demon Slayer beats out Agent 3 of Splatoon. That is correct. Agent 3 of Splatoon loses to Verasika Mayday of Hell of a Boss. Ooh, I'm gonna guess wins out against Rock's Fortnite. Who loses to Koro of Dead or Alive? Yes. Captain Marvel beats out Koro of Dead or Alive just barely. 43. Beaten out by Josuke Yashikata, who loses to Riju. No. And then I lose by 4,000. About 4,000. No Game, No Life as a franchise loses to the Chain Chomp from Super Mario. Who loses to Ballora. No. Who wins against Ballora. So I lose by about 200. I'm gonna guess that Roserade the Pokemon wins against Hot Pants from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. About like 300 posts. Mash Curie Light wins out against Roserade by about 4,000 posts. Excellent. Mash wins against Seth by a lot. Seth Lowell of Zenless Zero loses, or Zenless Zone Zero loses against Kari and Kenzuki of Street Fighter Alpha 3. Kari and Kenzuki loses against Boa Hancock handily. Boa Hancock, I'm going to say wins against Uni of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I'm correct. Who loses again? No, he wins against Locus of Pokemans, and I am wrong by about 600. Lucio of Overwatch beats out Reyna of Valorant, and I am wrong by 200. Absol beats out Uni. A Hat in Time barely beats out Uni. Probably beats out Koraidon. Yep. Just barely, though. Who beats out Papyrus of Undertale. Who was beaten by Kirito of Sword Art Online. Who loses to Poppy of League of Legends. Who, unfortunately, probably wins out against Mikasa Ackerman. Just barely, though. Who I'm gonna guess wins out against Marine the Raccoon, in spite of the strength of Sonic. Who wins out against Mikaya of Fire Emblem? No. And I'm wrong by 100. Natasha Nyanners versus Snow White. Snow White wins. May beats out Snow White easily. Not even a question. Bull of Brawl Stars as well. Losing to Miraidon. No, Miraidon is beaten by Bull by about 100. So I lost by 100 again. Invincigal beats out Cyclops? No. She doesn't have a lot of art, surprisingly enough. Sableye wins out... What? Loses by 40 to Zekrom, and I lost by 40 to that. Kiriko, you gotta beat out Shez, and you did. Briar probably has more art than Shez. Okay, I was correct. Mitsuki Bakugo easily wins out over a random League of Legends character and loses to Choke. I'm pretty sure I have seen that art, but Choke beats up Pyrus. Loses to Black Pearl Cookie, I'm going to guess as well, and I guess is correct. Loses to Rapidash. Who loses to Sailor Moon, the character. Who wins out against Candace of Pokemans. Who loses to Hatterene, I'm going to say. Who wins out over Lieutenant Surge. I'm getting a lot of Pokemon this time around. Who loses out against Cookie Run Kingdom as a whole, which beats out Feraligatr which is beaten by Freedom Planet, but not by that much. Which is absolutely slaughtered by Cynthia of Pokemon, which beats out Pulchra Fellini, because as hot as she is, she is a relatively new character, who I think wins out against Sonia Nevermind of Danganronpa, and I'm correct, who loses to Agumon just barely, like 90, I think. Who loses to Eren Yeager of Attack on Titan. Who loses to Ochako Uraraka of My Hero Academia, who beats out the Sage from Dragon Quest III. Who loses to Sabrina of Pokemans, and I'm correct. Who I think loses... Is Shirogane Narwhal the one I think it is? I do not recognize this one. Started in 2019. So I'm gonna guess that Ms. Shirogane wins out. Just barely. And probably wins out over Ino of Guilty Gear, who loses to Aether of Genshin Impact. And I have a new streak! Haha! Who in Aether wins out against Justice of Helltaker. Who loses to Hiccup Horrendous Headache the Third. I just know. Who I want to say loses out to Sly Cooper as a series. That's correct. Who I want to say wins out against Vex, just barely, of League of Legends. Who wins out against Nickit the Pokemon. Who loses... Meltrilus, that's it. I'm gonna say Nickit loses to Meltrilus, and I am wrong by about 200. Hey, got his 30 streak. Nichijou wins out against Alvin and the Chipmunks. No! Okay! One more. Mithra over Haikyuu character. Mithra over Fortnite character. And losing by 200. Alright. Thank you for watching. I guess I could play Digimon Time Stranger. Oh yeah, I do have the XCOM thing. When is that supposed to start? It doesn't tell me. From here. 7 p.m. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll go and cut off here and... Thank you for watching and all of that. I will be doing a XCOM stream in a little over an hour. We'll see how that goes, but it's also marked as 18 plus because I have some lewd mods installed. So hard to say who's actually gonna see it. Regardless, actually I think I might just cancel that. I'm not feeling like XCOM right now. Whatever. I'll see you guys some point.